think when you see one of these? More than with other guitars, opinions on the Les Paul seem to fall into two camps. There are people who think they're great, and then there are other people who think that they're only good for playing rock music, they're too heavy, and they're too expensive. If you think any of these things, which I'll admit that I have at certain times, I'm going to spend this video attempting to convince you otherwise. I'm going to start with a few playing examples to show the Les Paul in a bunch of different contexts, not just surviving, but excelling. And then I'll come back and address the other two issues a little bit. This is going to be a playing heavy video. If you're into that, great. If not, no problem. I'll have timestamps if you want to hear me yakking. So here we go. The specific Les Paul that I'm going to use for this is a Gibson Les Paul Standard, and this is the 60s edition with the slimmer neck and the Grover tuners. But this has the stock pickups in it. It does have 50s wiring, but I'm not really using that because I didn't want to color anybody's perception that way. The amps for each example will be different. I'll list those before the playing examples. There's nothing fancy going on here. There's no coil splitting, nothing else like that. And the goal here isn't to get my Les Paul to sound exactly like a Telecaster or a Stratocaster or anything else. The goal instead is to let the Les Paul be itself, but fit it into these contexts. The first thing we'll do is a funk track. I'm going to put two guitar parts on this. The first one is a scratching part that might remind you of somebody like Nile Rodgers or Corey Wong. For this, I'm going to go in the middle position, and I'm going to have the bridge pickup volume on 10 and roll the volume on the neck pickup back just a little bit. So as you might expect, it sounds kind of like the middle position and kind of like the bridge position, but the neck pickup takes a little bit of the nose off. The other part is a percolated single note part, and for that, I'm on the bridge pickup with everything wide open. Both parts are going into a Fender Deluxe Reverb, and that's it. That's the only thing that's on. There's no compression, there's no reverb, it's just the amp. Next, let's try a little bit of country. I'm going to do two different examples here. The first one is a chicken-picked lead along with a track. The other one is a Chet Atkins style solo bit. I'm playing Mr. Sandman. May as well just say that up front. For the first example, I'm using the bridge pickup. In the second example, I'm using the middle pickup, middle position, not middle pickup. Caught myself. In any event, both examples are going into my Vox AC15 using a Boss DD8 for a little bit of slapback, and on the second example, there's a little bit of tremolo also from the amp. Now let's try something a little bit different. The ultra-processed, sparkly, 80s clean guitar sound. So the typical way to achieve this sound would be to run a guitar, probably a Strat, through a compressor, delay, reverb, and chorus. Not necessarily in that order, but maybe running that through a clean amp, maybe not running it through an amp at all. I could certainly do that with the Les Paul too, but in the spirit of this video, I'm going to keep the rig a little more typical and use an amp and not use a perfectly clean amp either, and see how we do with getting those sounds. The rig in this case is a matchless amp with a digital delay and a chorus on it. And some of the auxiliary parts that you'll hear one side or the other will have reverb on them. The one in the middle doesn't. The main part is recorded in the middle position with the volume on the neck pickup rolled back just a little bit and everything else wide open. And there's a strummed The Edge style guitar part that I did on the neck pickup. And on that, I did roll the volume back a little bit. It's not the typical recipe, but let's see how it sounds. I'll let those playing examples speak for themselves. Now let's talk about the weight of the guitar a little bit. So a lot of people will complain that Les Pauls are heavy, and frankly, that is valid. They don't tend to be light guitars. If you get one like this that's not weight relieved, you can expect it to be between 9 and 10 pounds sometimes, especially if you're not getting a custom shop model. So depending on how big you are and maybe just your preferences, you might find this to be a big issue, you might not. If you do find the weight of the guitar to be an issue, there are a couple of things to consider. One, a wider strap goes a long way. So this is a Levy's bass strap. It is 4 inches wide. It looks ridiculous, but I promise you this makes wearing any guitar a much more comfortable experience. If you're still having back and shoulder issues from wearing your guitar on a strap, it might be worth considering building some strength in those areas. This sounds like a weird solution or a non-solution, but this is something I can speak to from first-hand experience that involves buying a Strandberg at some point. Finally, let's talk about pricing, because one of the biggest complaints about the Les Paul is that it's prohibitively expensive. I get it. This guitar retails for about $2,800, which is a sizable chunk of change. But this is near the top of Gibson's production line. And if we look at the top of Fender's production line, who are arguably Gibson's main competitor, the price isn't as far off as you might think it would be. If it isn't worth that little bit of extra and you want to save some money, take a look at a Les Paul Studio. Les Paul Studios retail for $1,600, and they can be found used for under $1,000 without looking very hard. And you might miss some of the bells and whistles. No binding, maybe some dot inlays instead of the block inlays. You don't get the flame top, but still fundamentally a very similar guitar that'll absolutely do the Les Paul thing if that's what you're looking for. I think that's about all I have to say. So I'll open the floor. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. Did you have some of the same assumptions about the Les Paul as I expressed and that I used to have? Or are you someone who plays one and enjoys it? What are some other guitar stereotypes you might have in your head? Thank you so much for watching. I would welcome a like and subscribe if that's your kind of thing. I'll see you in the next video.